I got yelled at by a woman outside that I wasn't wearing a mask, but she was about 100 feet away from me. And man, do I try to be alone.
Jeez, lady. I used to obsessively check weather apps. Now I obsessively check air quality apps.
Oh, yeah, same. I'm still sleeping with the windows open because a girl's got to have her fresh, smoky air.
Amen, sister. The gnats have been replaced by large horseflies and flying ants. Every new day brings new joys, Sarah.
Doesn't it, though? Have such a good day. Hello, world, and welcome to Have Such a Good Day,
the show where we get real. I'm Heather Frank.
And I'm Sarah Lynn.
Hi.
Hi.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, everyone. We're here.
Welcome to show 67. Can we
Still
just discuss
standing.
that for a second?
Yeah, 67.
We're almost at 69.
I know. It's weird that that's where my thought went as well. I'm like 67, like, is there anything cool
Straight to the
about
gutter.
67? You know how you get like sucked into like dumb stuff on the internet where they like make you go through like a photo slideshow and it takes like a million years.
Yeah.
I got into this like dumb one about on Esquire.com about New York in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of like Studio 54 shots, which of course, like I never went there. I was like not even alive or way too young. But I was like, 54 kind of has like a cool, it sounds kind of cool. 67, I'm not sure. But you know what? Prove me wrong, internet.
I'm telling you, we are ready to prove you wrong.
We really are.
So welcome to show 67.
Yeah, and if you're new here or you need a little refresher on what the hell we're doing, this is the show where we unpack the absurdity of everyday life for your entertainment and hope that you feel good in the process.
I mean, we're all about pursuing knowledge here on Have Such a Good Day. First and foremost, we want to laugh and have a good time. And then secondary is knowledge. We want to be better, smarter people every day. So join us.
Absolutely. So, Heather, I don't want to make everything about my life sucky, but it's been kind of sucky as of late. And I know that a lot of you can agree. It's just weird.
Mm-hmm.
So last, let's call it Friday, I was kind of going into the weekend and there's been a lot of smoke here in California. And I know, Heather, where you are as well, and definitely in Oregon, and the entire West Coast has just had like a real time of it. So, I know that I'm among many, but I woke up, and you kind of swallow and you're like, ooh, I think I'm getting sick. And I don't get sick that often. I actually like never get colds. I've like never gotten the flu since I was like 7. Like I feel pretty healthy as a person in general, and I try to, do my own keep up. But when you get that throat thing, you're like, yeah, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah, definitely.
And, it's just sort of like, whatever, I live alone. I, got to walk my dog, but otherwise like I can kind of hunker down. And it was going into the weekend anyway. And I had no plans because where am I going to go? And so I was like, oh, okay, I got a cold. And it wasn't super major. It really wasn't. It kind of, I felt a little under the weather for, 48 hours and then I felt better. But for those 48 hours, because of COVID and just sort of like everyone's sort of warranted paranoia,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh God, is this it? Like
do I have a fever? What are my symptoms?
Where does it go from here? Like, is this
Did I
how it
lost my
ends
sense
for
of
me?
taste?
Yeah, I just like woke up one morning, had a sore throat, and then I died. And it's like, that sounds so funny, but it's like, I hadn't been sick since our whole pandemic, view of the world happened. And I just wasn't sure where it was going. And I was feeling like, I had like brunch plans with people and I was like, oh no, I can't be near anybody,
Mm-hmm.
Cause like, what if I kill them? Like what if, anyway, we're good.
You sound
COVID
good.
test has been administered. I am free and clear. Yeah, I think I just honestly just had like smoke inhalation,
Totally.
sadness.
So you did
But
get
it
the
was like,
test.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah. For
cool.
the first time. Yeah, I got it at Kaiser. It's free. Um, well, if you have Kaiser. Yeah, I don't know. You, your mileage may vary, but yeah, I never had it before because I just was never worried that I felt awful. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden when I was like, I don't feel good and I don't want this to get super weird, especially because it's like I go see my mother and
Hmm.
like no, we're not I'm not going to be responsible for this nonsense and I also don't want to die. But again, one of those things where I'm like, yeah, probably because there are wildfires on the West
Yeah.
Coast, I just felt shitty for a couple of days and but that's where I went with it rather than being not a germaphobe, which I normally
Of
am.
course, I would do the same thing. In fact, I had a couple little scratchy throats during the sky was really smoky, and I just sort of assumed that's what it was. But I definitely would jump to conclusions if I had other symptoms because I haven't been sick either. And to be honest, like almost every year I get the flu. I got the flu shot last year and I didn't get it. And then my entire family got what we think was COVID because I didn't get it and I was with them and everyone who was together had it. And so yeah, I would be paranoid too if I woke up with cold symptoms for sure. Well, I thought actually I had an experience the other day that I thought if you were in my pocket, you would have laughed heartily. I don't know if you've done much curbside pickup lately, but you know a lot of stores do this curbside pickup where you order online and you can either get it shipped or you just go to your local store. Like all kinds of stores do it. In this case, it was
Yeah.
Bed Bath and Beyond, and you know I would like to kind of get into what I was buying because it was one of those things that I know you can relate to, Sarah, where you have thought about buying something like a particular item, like an appliance or something, for years, and you deep dive into the rabbit holes of the internet, looking at every last review you could possibly find to make a decision. I spend a lot of time on Wirecutter, as we've talked about on the show before. I love Wirecutter, and I'm still kind of on the fence about my purchase. And it is an espresso machine. Full disclosure, I've wanted one for a really, really long time, and I have an espresso machine that I've started to get a little paranoid about, like the pods being aluminum. And I've been using this thing for 5 years. So I'm like, okay, I got to get something for the
Well,
wintertime.
and real quick, for anyone who's like, why would that make you paranoid? What? Why?
Well, because aluminum, hot water goes through the pod, which is made of aluminum on the top. And aluminum has been known to cause Alzheimer's, depression, a lot of kind of brain stuff.
Oh, same reason why
Aluminum,
people don't use
deodorant.
antiperspirant. Yes,
Exactly. And
got it.
so, and
Got
then
it.
again, it's like a lot of people, it's controversial because a lot of people, you're fine. It's not high enough heat, for it to, cause any issues. But I don't
But you're
know.
like you're erring on the side of
I
caution. That's
am. And it's
cool.
been 5 years. I've been using this thing for a long time. So I'm like, man, 2 pods a day for how many years? Like, whoa. And I'm an adult now. I'm a sophisticated adult. And I thought, time to get myself a sophisticated espresso machine. Um, I mean, the whole process was super interesting. Actually, we can talk about it another time. But what I really wanted to talk about was the curbside pickup dance that it was. This was a comedy of errors, I'm telling you. So I pull up into the designated spot for pickup, right? It's got a sign and everything. And you call, and someone comes out, and this jovial guy comes out, and it's like, we have to be cautious. We're both wearing masks. I'm sitting in the car and he's like 8 feet away from my car. I'm not really sure if he's coming to see me because of that. He's kind of waving at me. So I like open the door and then he like freaks out, close the door, close the door. And then I like close the door. Oh my God, oh my God. Put my
I
mask
mean,
back on,
oh man.
roll the window down. I rolled the wrong window down. Then he wanted to see my ID. So I like rolled the window down to hand him my ID and he freaked out. And so I rolled it back up and he wanted me to just show it through the window. Like, I can't even explain how hilarious this was. And then when I had to give him my credit card because I got the 20% off discount. And so I had to he had a special bin inside another special bin inside a cart that was 6 feet away that I had to, I guess, get out of the car and put my credit card in this bin. And I mean, the guy is like backing up when I get out. I can't open the trunk for him to put my thing in. I mean, I was literally like laughing in my car. It was the most silly thing ever.
Wow.
And it all ended with me having like buyer's remorse and not being totally sure about my purchase.
Well, and that
It's just
because
ridiculous,
of
the whole thing.
because of the interaction, or because of the actual like
No, because the thing is there's a lot of nuances that come, a lot of nuances. It's like I have a built-in grinder in this espresso machine, and a lot of people will say it's the best thing ever because it's all in one machine.
Oh yeah, but
But
then you
then
get the
there's a lot
grinder
of
people who
people,
say no,
you
no.
get the grinder
Yeah,
people that say you got to get a good, and I got to
yeah.
say one thing about grinders. Okay, Sarah, maybe you could relate to this. So I have a coffee grinder that's like, it's like Krups, with a K,
Hmm.
that I bought like in college or something. It's like a totally standard, basic plug-in little grinder, right? Coffee grinder. That's what I know as a coffee grinder. I never thought that like nowadays you kind of have to get like a cafe level grinder because grinders have gotten so sophisticated. So I'm like, I didn't realize that if I went the other way and got the standalone espresso maker without the grinder, I would still have to spend $200 on like a top notch grinder. So I'm like, well, I'm screwed either way. So you're kind of like, either way, I've got like there's pros and cons to both. So I can't decide because there's too many pros and cons on both, and they're just different. It's like apples and oranges.
Totally. I'm with you on the grinder. I have it's not Krups, but it's like, the OXO or some, it's like some like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it seems fine to me. And
Like kind of basic bitch.
yeah, totally. Because that's what I am when it comes to coffee grinders. I'm like, I don't know, you just grind them up. That's what you do, and then you make coffee, and then you drink it. But
So basic.
but I a friend of mine who has and I actually like, I am not, I mean, I hate to call myself a snob, but I am a coffee snob. I
Oh
want
yeah.
good coffee. I like my alternate milk. I've got my whole thing going on, and
Mm-hmm.
it works very well for me. Like, I'm not drinking your Starbucks crap. I'm just not doing it.
Oh hell
And
no.
if anyone else loves Starbucks, that's totally fine, and we will high five, but I like my shit the way it is.
I'm with you,
That
sister.
said, I know you are. But I was talking to a friend who had like the like super fancy like, I don't know, it was just like some coffee situation, and I was like, yeah, what about like the grind, like your grinder seems like so like extra. And he was like, well, Sarah, everyone says that the grinder is the most important part,
That's what they say.
because if you buy like really nice beans, and they don't grind the right way, it won't taste good, and you don't get any of the benefits of what the money that you spend on the beans. And I'm like, I can't win.
No, you can't win. And the thing is, they say too, like with the built-in grinder, like sometimes if you get too oily beans, it will like clog it.
Mm,
And I'm like, everything is seriously, it's the amount of research that we have to go into to buy a new appliance these days. I'm not talking about just coffee makers. I'm talking about air purifiers. I mean, anything you're trying to buy and weigh your options. I don't know if I've ever been this conflicted though. Like, and I dropped a little coin on it. And so I'm like, I want to
yeah.
make the right decision, but at the same time, I don't really want to spend $200 on a grinder. Like, why won't my grinder work? Well, it still
I
works.
mean, I don't know. Yeah, if it were me, I'd be like, no,
Would you
$200.
get the all-in-one grinder?
Well, the all-in-one
Because what if the grinder
the
breaks and then
all-in-one
you can't
stuff
use
is
it?
is problematic, right? Because
I
if
know.
one part of it breaks, then you're like, oh, I can't do anything now.
Yeah.
So I kind of shy away from all-in-one
Me
stuff when
too.
it comes to this sort of thing. I mean, I never really thought about it with coffee, because I just like you, I have my
Yeah.
grinder, and I have my coffee maker, and everything works fine. I also don't make espresso, so I don't, the whole Nespresso world is somewhat
Just
lost
goes
on
over your
me.
head.
But
Yeah.
um, but I realize that it's cool, and people really like it.
Yeah, and it's hard because I have one good friend who swears by the grinder built in, like just brought it with her to Europe, like brings it wherever she goes. And in fact, one of
Wow.
the biggest reviews that kind of sort of sealed the deal for me today, because I was like sort of deciding if I was going to keep it. This one woman, the title of her review was "After People and Pets, I'd Save This in a Fire." And this is the one with the built-in grinder, which I thought was hilarious. But the other one, I have another really good friend who has the like separate, it's like $100 cheaper and it doesn't have a grinder. But I'm like, well, what do you do with your beans? She's like, oh, I just buy it pre-ground.
No,
And
no,
I'm like,
no,
you don't want to
no.
do that because it gets
No.
stale. And that's the whole point of the grinder in there, because it keeps it really
Oh,
fresh, you know?
totally. I mean, and listen, again, shout out to all people who buy their beans pre-ground, like all good. I'm not doing that. I just
No.
can't do that. I need to grind them.
Oh, because you like the ritual of grinding them, or you
No,
just like them
because I want them
fresh?
to be fresh. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
totally.
mind the
Yeah.
ritual either, but even so like my mom, here's a funny thing. She's got like regular coffee maker. She also has an espresso, but she has a regular coffee maker and she puts the ground beans, she grinds them before she goes to bed and puts them in the coffee maker so that when she gets up in the morning, there's just like one button to press and everything's done. And I'm like,
I think that's really smart.
it's smart, but I'm like, you're like wasting 9 hours of freshness. And she's like, but it tastes
It's just true.
fine. And I'm like, I know, but like you're not supposed to do that.
Well, it's interesting that you tell me that, because my biggest fear with this machine, and it's really big. I think the grinder makes it really big, and I feel like it's ostentatious on my counter, and I feel like almost embarrassed. I'm like, this thing is so massive. But I also am worried because I'm so used to popping in a pod and you get a coffee in 30 seconds with an espresso. But now there's a learning curve with this thing. Like, it's going to take me a while to figure out how to make an actual latte or whatever. And yeah, I'm gonna have to grind it it's gonna take me like 10 minutes to get a coffee in my mouth. So I don't know if this is worth it.
I really feel for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally first world dilemmas. But if any of you have had this experience with the Breville espresso machines, let me know what you chose. Hyatt, have such a good day.com.
Totally. The Breville is, regarded as it's the good
It
one.
is, exactly.
I mean, I was doing Bialetti for like years,
Hmm.
some years back, and which it is espresso sort of. I mean, you could use any sort of beans.
Hmm.
Anyway, non-coffee people are like, "Oh my
They're
god,
like,
stop
oh my
talking about
God, tune
coffee."
out. Okay,
Yeah,
moving
but
on.
we will move on. So earlier this week, Apple had an announcement, as it is wont to do. This is one of two kind of big announcements at the end of the year. This particular one focused on the Apple Watch and also iPad updates. Then there's the iPhone update, which is like its whole big.
Hmm.
That's like kind of the big announcement.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet. Anyway, the Apple Watch announcement did, as well as the iPad. I actually don't use an iPad, and I haven't for a while, even though I really loved the form factor at one point. Once the iPhones got big enough, I just was like,
That's how I feel.
yeah. And I may come back around because the new ones are real nice. But the Apple Watch, which I also don't have. I've never had an Apple Watch. I didn't have a smartwatch well, that's not true. Like it was like the Nike whatever, fitness band.
Hmm.
Then I had like an old Fitbit, and they sort of like, I don't know, broke or went away or whatever, and people stopped caring. And then I've had the Fitbit Versa 2 for going on a year now,
Hmm.
which I love, because, it's all data, just
Yeah.
like data driven. Like, how many miles did I walk?
Hmm.
How many calories did I burn? I enter like stupid stuff about like, all right, I ate a piece of cheesecake at 10 a.m. It's like, okay, that's like
That sounds like you.
1,000 calories. Right? So I'm like, okay, just, enter that into my day.
You know,
But
I remember those days fondly when you used to talk about how you'd eat like a piece of cake in the morning. That was totally your MO. It's really funny.
I know it's very rare now. I'm
Yeah.
not much of a sweets person anymore, but I do have my moments.
Hmm.
I do, they creep up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've got, I have a different fitness tracker thing. However, Apple's announcement, which included a variety of new Apple Watch updates, it's the Apple Watch Series 6 at this point. There's like new bands, new stuff, and blah, blah, blah. But what I thought was really exciting, and I know I've talked about this on the show before, is like VR working out,
Mm-hmm.
is the new Apple Fitness Plus service.
Wow.
Fitness Plus service being sort of like Apple Music, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're paying a subscription. I don't know, like, well, you don't have to put out VR headset because it's just like Apple Watch related. But
Mm.
if you have an Apple Watch and you've got a TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that, smart TV or a TV that is connected to an Apple TV type thing, you could be like, oh, wow, I could like do like a million yoga classes right now with my subscription,
Very
rather
cool.
than like an a la carte thing where I think a lot of people up until this point, and pandemic, I mean, fuck you, pandemic, but I will say there is something to the whole kind of like exercise thing, because so many people are cooped up and are like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste away. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I need to find like other alternatives. We're getting some really interesting ones, and this is one of those.
This is really cool because I'm same with the espresso machine. I'm in the market for like a Peloton or like some kind of exercise bike for the winter because I'm going to be more pent up than usual. I probably won't be able to hike as much. And so, God, this is interesting to me. How much is the subscription?
$9.99 per month.
That's a great deal. It's so much better than Tracy Anderson's $90 a month.
Oh my God, is that how
Yeah,
much it is?
yeah.
You're kidding me.
Uh-huh.
Jeez. Although I heard that her workouts are like the bomb.
You can do it
But no,
free 14 days or something. It's actually kind of interesting to kind of take a peek behind that in that world. And her it's fun. I mean, what she does is fun. It's sort of like aerobics, I guess, dance aerobics, but you have to
yeah,
be really coordinated. It's kind of hard for me.
I have a friend who shall remain nameless that has like signed up for like many Gmail accounts. She can keep getting the free 14-day
Oh, that's
trial type
awesome.
thing. Yeah. Where I'm like, I mean,
Well, if you haven't
if it
noticed,
works for you, whatever.
I've actually used the Have Such a Good Day email a couple times for like getting Netflix back. So I'm like, oh, I canceled it. Oh, I shouldn't have canceled it because then this comes. And then I'm like, oh, I just use a different email. Full
Yeah, well,
disclosure.
you wouldn't be the first person to say so. But yeah, the exercise thing is really cool. And it's funny because, you mentioned, maybe wanting to get a Peloton, and that is kind of like, I feel like Peloton is like the shining, star of, oh, this is how you cancel your gym membership and work out from
Uh
home,
huh.
right? And and then it was sort of, people were like, well, but like, what if I don't like biking? And it's like, oh, well, now they have a treadmill,
Mm-hmm.
cool, still. And you're kind of like competing with your peers,
Mm-hmm.
online, and so there's this whole kind of like fun community
Mm-hmm.
thing to it, and that's all very true. However, it's not cheap. I
Mm-mm.
mean, it's like 30, what, like $30 a month, I
Oh, it's more
think.
than that. I think it's 40. But the thing is, like, I don't even
But
really
and
want to
that's after
do.
you buy the
I know, and
hardware.
I don't even want to do the live stuff. I would do on demand, so I don't even need a Peloton. I think I would get like a lesser bike because I don't want to really compete with people. I just want to have an on demand class that I could take by myself. I don't need people to see me and sweat. I don't. That's not really my vibe. Maybe I would like it, but
That's actually, yeah, it's always kind of been, even though I used to be quite the gym rat, I just don't have a gym near me
mhm,
anymore. I used to like, I mean, I walked to gyms for like so many years in my life, and
mhm,
I just can't do that anymore. There's no gym I can walk to. But like, being at a gym was sort of like people watching,
mhm,
but I didn't do community stuff. I walked in with my headphones on, and I, nod politely to the regulars, and I do my thing, and then I leave.
exactly. That's my
And
vibe too.
I think a lot of people are sort of like, "Oh yeah, why did I have to go to this place when I can do these, other things at home?"
Yeah.
And so the whole Apple Fitness Plus thing is not necessarily, I mean, that it hasn't even launched yet,
Mhm,
so like couldn't even tell you. But I mean, I do quite a bit of cardio workouts
mhm.
using my Oculus Quest, like the VR thing, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the time saved of not having to go to a place to
Mhm.
do this thing and then come back from that place and then like
Totally.
take a shower, and the whole thing is like, you really do save some time. It is, it does make it more solitary
Yeah.
than before, but it's not like, I don't know, I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm really curious. I'm still potentially gonna do the Oculus because I just need something, and I don't think I'm gonna get a Peloton. I think I would get like just like a if I and I'm not even like a huge into cycling person. I'd rather hike or do yoga slash aerobic kind of thing. So maybe the Apple fitness thing sounds really cool. I have an Apple Watch from like an employer gave it to me when I got hired. I never bought one, but I always forget about it. It's kind of feels like it's thick on my arm and I get sweaty under it. So I get annoyed and I take it off. And then it's always out of batteries. I swear to God. It's like I feel like every time I wear it's like it runs out of batteries before I'm done with it. I have to charge it every single night, which seems excessive to me. And it will die. It won't
That
be like your
that
cell phone where it's like 10%. It's like it'll just die. So I'm like, this
yeah,
thing annoys me.
that's excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're Brave New World, right? We're
Hmm.
all trying to, figure out this whole thing. I mean, even though I hope very much for a future where we can all interact in person a little bit more,
Hmm.
because I think I'm starting to suffer from like I'm a recluse.
Hmm.
you know, like I mean, I'm like I want to be one when I want to be one, but now I have to be one, and it's been a really long time, and now I'm like I miss the world.
Do you miss the world?
Um, I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, the working out thing from home is like that's just convenience,
Exactly.
but there's sort of like a broader, okay, where do we all go? How does this all work?
Yeah, well, time will tell. I don't know how much time, but maybe a little while longer. But kind of speaking in the whole pandemic, I know we've been talking about that a lot, but I don't know. I was actually curious to find that there weren't a lot of major like roundup kind of reviews about a variety of air quality index apps, which I'm sure everybody's using right now because there's been so many fires. There's been so much concern with air pollution. I mean, like I said at the top of the show, like I have always obsessively looked at weather apps and now I obsessively look at air quality index apps. So I thought we would
Hmm.
do like a quick little roundup of ones that I've been using. There's a lot out there, and I think there's a lot of reasons why you'll choose one app over another. A lot of times, for me, it's like aesthetics and you know data and whatever it is that kind of encourages you to use an app. But the one that I've actually been using a lot of, I wouldn't say it's my favorite because I did find a better one. But for some, I don't know, someone recommended it to me. I had initially had this was like maybe a year or so ago. The first air quality app I ever had was called Air Bubbles. And
Okay.
it's kind of a fun little concept. Did you ever remember that they had like that website way back when? This is like early internet. And it was called like Music Plasma or something. And it was all these bubbles of like different bands and how they related to each other. And
Yeah, kind
like
of.
Radiohead was like a
Yeah.
big bubble because it's a big band. And then there was like smaller bands that like branched off from it. And it was such a cool way to find music. And
Yeah.
I think they had the same thing for maybe movies and some other media. I don't remember, but I love that thing. And this Air Bubbles reminds me of that. But there's one that the second one I started using is Air Visual. And I mean, I find it pretty comprehensive. I mean, it does compile data from government agencies, which a lot of them do, and it's crowdsourced and that kind of thing. They have a pretty cool kind of Google Map kind of thing where it's like colored bubbles. It kind of reminded me of that original bubble app I was using. They have a list of like major cities and their air quality. So it's like worst to best, but it's a bunch of major cities. So if you live in a small town like me or like you, Sarah, it's kind of hard to find our precise location. Like you can't put in a zip code. This is one thing that actually does bug me about this app is it's kind of hard for me to find Trinidad. It has like a part of Trinidad, but it's like further south, but I cannot get it exactly to where we are on the coast. But it
Mm.
does offer tips on health, like close your windows or limit your outdoor activities, wear a mask, that kind of stuff. And you can see how other cities compare. You can get alerts when it changes, which I like, when the air quality changes. But yeah, I moved on because I was kind of like, I felt like it wasn't as precise as I wanted. The one that I found to be extremely precise and just God, they are on it. Breezometer, and you can look at your air quality online, like on a browser, or get the app. Um, and they monitor like air quality, pollen, and you can actually look at the weather on it, which is kind of cool. You can kind of toggle between those three, which is kind of nice. Then I could stop using my weather apps. Um, but what I find, it's very, very, very accurate because it kind of updates every hour, and it's in over like 90 countries, and it's like on the street level, which is so interesting to me. It collects data from like, I don't know, like 40,000 government sensors. They study traffic patterns, they get data from satellites. But what's cool about it is it really pulls in data to like within blocks of where you
Huh.
are, which is so cool. And they have fire alerts. Like today I looked at it and, I obviously have my location in there. And so basically today it said, alert, at 25 kilometers, it's in kilometers because it's like, I think it's based in Israel, this company. And there's a fire 25 kilometers away from me right now. And you can kind of see it on the map, which is really cool.
And also really close.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know
You
if you know
know?
kilometers. And then personal health recommendations, you can track your daily exposure, which I haven't done yet, which I assume is like, you know, it'll tell you've been outside for too long, like you've been exposed
Mm,
for X amount of times or
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they have this like live accuracy monitor that's really cool. You can see like all these different cities from around the world and what they're tracking like right then and there. Which is pretty cool. And and then what I love too, because I was like, God, I wonder, there were some days where it was like really bad and then kind of bad. And I wanted to compare like the days. So, like, for example, today was like a pretty decent, it's like clear and good skies. It has been for the last couple of days. We actually had some rain today and yesterday, but it'll compare the pollution forecasts like from today and like 7 days back. So you're like, oh, it's better air quality, and you can kind of see
Hmm.
see that progression. It uses a lot of machine like learning technology, and it is fascinating. I mean, I can't really dive any deeper, or I'll talk forever. But the last one I wanted to mention is kind of a funny one. If you're into not a lot of the data and you don't really care about a lot of the finer details, it's called Shit I Smoke, and that's SH asterisk T exclamation point. And it's an app, and what it does is it compares your city's air pollution to smoking cigarettes. So like yesterday I checked it
Oh.
and it told me that I smoke 1.9 cigarettes a day. And it has this kind of cool like smoke animation in the corner. It's a little hokey, but it's kind
But
of
it's kind
fun.
of like, I think that's probably good context for a lot of people because like, and I'm guilty of this as well.
Yeah.
Is like, like I said, like I like my windows open at night. I
Mhm.
need fresh air when I'm sleeping.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if it's smoky, oh well. I mean, this is where I live. What am I gonna do?
Wear a full face mask to bed. I mean, you wear an eye mask already, right?
I wear an eye mask, yeah, but like I'm not wearing a face mask. Like
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen. I mean, yes, I could close up my house. I could, batten down the hatches, which I know a lot of my friends have done, and they're sort of horrified that I haven't. And I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, life is hard, right? But if you put it in context of like, oh, and now it's like you're smoking, like however many cigarettes a
Mhm.
day, then you're like, ew, I should probably change my habits. So that's kind of effective.
It is effective because I hate cigarettes, and maybe you don't care that some people love cigarettes and they don't think about that. But to me, I think it's so gross and like so bad for you. So it's like it does influence me a lot, actually. The other day I was like, I'm going for a hike, smoky air be damned. But then I saw that thing and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna do some yoga in the house with my air purifier. But I know you don't have an air
Right.
purifier.
I don't. I know. I should have one. I've already got an HVAC on the fritz, which is a whole other story. But
For another show.
when we reconvene next week, maybe I'll have both. We'll see how it
Let us
goes.
know.
Absolutely. So I liked your app roundup,
Thanks, Sarah. You know what's
Heather.
kind of funny? It felt like a weird role reversal because, like, as some of you know, and many of you maybe don't, because we haven't mentioned this at all lately, but Sarah and I've been working together for like 20 years. totally dating us, but we've done so many kind of technology shows. And Sarah's always been the technology expert. I've just like, I dabble in it, but I usually talk about movies or comic books or music. And Sarah's always the one doing the roundups. But I had fun doing it today. I felt like you.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah. And honestly, like I didn't know any of your apps. Like I'm
Oh,
super pumped to
that's
like look through them
great.
and yeah, and learn something from them.
That's awesome. My dad to this day, he goes, God, I just remember the day when I never knew anything about Twitter. The world didn't know anything about Twitter, but Sarah did a review on it on Pop Siren. He just always mentions that. He just thinks that you were so forward thinking. It's really funny.
Well, Mr. Frank, I really appreciate that. If we were on Pop Siren and I was talking about Twitter, Twitter definitely existed already by then.
I'm
So I
sure.
didn't,
Yeah.
I did not invent it, but it was early days. I get what you mean. I
Uh-huh.
get what you mean. And
You
yeah,
had your finger on the pulse, or you still do.
yeah. Well, that's, I don't know. It's my lot in life. For better or for worse, I'm just going to talk about technology until I die.
Well, speaking of technology, why don't you tell everybody about the cool platform called Patreon?
Oh, patreon.com/ have such a good day. Have you been there recently? Because if you haven't, or you never have, this is sort of our bread and butter of the show. We really, really rely on our patrons, and we thank them so, so much for helping us make the show every week. It's just Heather and me, we're a ragtag crew, but we try really hard to, pump up the volume, right? And pump out the jams and
Pump iron.
And pump iron. Yeah, right. In our basements as we do. Perhaps with Pelotons in the future. Who knows where the show's going to go. But as a patron, what you're doing is you're directly contributing to us not going to an ad model or some other model that might not be right for you. It's very much just us. We do have an ad-supported free version. So if you are a person who isn't in a position to offer a contribution right now, and we totally get that because so many people are in that situation right now more than ever, man, I mean, I am too with some of the shows that I like a lot. We have an ad-supported model, so that's cool too. But if you can support us on Patreon, again, patreon.com/have such a good day, we would appreciate it so, so very much. And thanks to everybody who's already with us. And boy, is our Discord popping.
Oh my God, our Discord's so fun. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there that can be kind of personal. So, we're not going to talk about that stuff on the show, but you're missing out. I'm just saying, you're missing out. There's been some good stories. But I do want to mention a couple new patrons. Maria Vanderwee. Cool name.
Hi, Maria.
It sounds familiar. I wonder if we know her. That name sounds familiar. Jonathan Williams.
Hi, Jonathan.
Steve T. Capital letter T.
Steve T. Keeping it mysterious. I like it. We also got a couple emails. The first one comes from Ed. And Ed we were having a conversation in our previous show about, being the grammar police. And Ed says, well, a pet peeve of mine is the recent overuse of the word like. I heard both of you use the word several times in one thought. Just thought, since you were talking about policing grammar. And Ed, I hear you. I do. I know I do this. I mean, Heather and I kind of, we speak in a similar way because we're kind of California girls and whatever. But
we're Valley girls.
Yeah. We're so Valley girls. Stab you with a spoon. But I feel like the like thing, and I know I do it. I know I do it so much, and I like it. It makes me feel normal. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to pull back on that one.
Well, it's funny because I mentioned, I think in the comments, I said, well, we all have our tics, and you and I have talked about this a lot because you've edited podcasts before, and I remember one day you told me, you were like, man, everybody's got some word that they get hung up on. It's like like there's always some filler words, and yes, I mean, I'm editing the show now too. So. And you don't realize you're doing it. It's totally like unconscious. But yes, apologies. I hate the idea of us being annoying to your ears. But we will try to, or at least I will try to, I like to try to get rid of those filler words as much as possible. I mean, I am not perfect, but Tina responded to Ed's note and she said, I thought like was about 20 years old, easy, which, it is. I mean, watch Valley Girl and, a lot of the 80s.
Oh, so Tina was saying, "Hey, Ed, this is not new. This has
No.
been going on for some time." Yeah,
And
yeah,
we grew
yeah.
up in the 80s. So for us, like is our filler word, unfortunately, fortunately.
It also, I talk to, because, I work from home, I live alone. A lot of my life is online.
Mm-hmm.
I, well, perhaps more than I would like.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I talk to a lot of people that I, love and care about online, and we use like purposely all the time, like sometimes like several times in a sentence, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it right now. It just like,
There you go.
there's something about it that makes me feel like you're going to understand what I have to say because of the inflection. I don't, it's hard to
I
say.
recall, didn't we do like a drinking game with like, I think it was like, it might have been me saying like a lot back in Echo Park. And we were like, every time Heather says this, have a drink or drink a kombucha or like, we did something like that. I just don't remember what the word was.
Yeah, yeah, drink some wine or kombucha or some
Yeah,
water.
we're like 67 episodes deep, so we're like it's hard to remember. Oh, I just said like a bunch of times. Sorry, Ed. But I did want to mention on this whole 80s note, Allison Park, who we talked about in our last episode, we former colleague, friend,
Love
awesome
you,
girl.
Allison.
And she said, "Why do I get so excited when I get mentioned on your PCast? Kind of like it's 1984 and Mitch Matthews, local radio DJ, plays my Duran Duran request," which I thought was very apropos. Thanks for writing in, Allison.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Heather, I don't know about you, but back in the day, my friends and I used to call into our local radio station because we wanted a certain song played.
Mm-hmm.
And if it got played, then we would feel so mighty because
Oh,
we'd be
yeah.
like, we made them do it.
Yes.
And there was, okay, so yeah, this is, gosh, I don't know, 1990-ish. A friend of mine and I, we called in, and a lot of this is programmatic.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you're gonna get your song played, but it's like gonna be played anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was a little bit less so, especially in more kind of rural areas, which was where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted a Richard Marx song to be played.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
And the DJ was like, they like were obviously recording it to play later,
Mm-hmm.
and they recorded us, and the DJ was like, yeah, I don't know that song, send me the song. And we were like, it's like the most like number one song in the whole country, like it's like top 40. He's like, no, sing it. And so we kind of sang it, and we sort of trailed off and like laughed, and then he hung up, and we were like, oh, I don't know what happened. Well, about an hour later, because of course we're still listening to the radio station, he plays the recording of us doing that and then follows it with the song that we wanted.
That's amazing. How did you react?
We were like in tears, so excited, like peed my pants. Like it was, because it's like, wow, we
We're
just
famous.
made it. We made a thing happen. Yeah, we're
That's so
famous on
fun.
KREO 92.3. I don't
Some of
know,
those
something like that.
things that used to happen, just they don't really happen. It's not as exciting now. It's like more of an analog world, like back
Yeah.
then, and those things were exciting. These days, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I miss that stuff though. That's probably why I spend so much time watching movies from the 70s. I really miss those times, the simpler times. But alas,
Oh, Heather, me too. And we don't have to get into this, and it's like so rando, but I watched Unpregnant
oh
last
yeah, how is
night.
that? I know what that is.
Pretty good. It was, um, and again, this is going to be a polarizing film for
Mm.
certain people. Well, it's going to be a polarizing film for everybody, but it, I thought it was really
Oh, I'm
good.
so gonna watch it. I watched the
Yeah.
new Luca Guadagnino. I think I'm pronouncing that right. His series on HBO, We Are Who We Are with Chloe Sevigny. Have you seen that
Oh,
yet? I think you would dig
I
it.
have
You
not.
should. You
Yeah.
should watch the pilot. I think you'll like it. I like that filmmaker a lot. He did Call Me by Your Name, which you didn't like, but it's not. Well, let's just see.
I
I think
didn't
you would like it.
hate it. I didn't hate it, but I was like, yawn. Like, what's up with this Tim guy?
Well,
Jeez.
let me know. I really want you to report back on that, and I'll watch Unpregnant,
I
and we'll
will.
report
All
back.
right, good, good. Well, that'll be, our homework for next
Yes, a
week.
movie club, if you will.
Yeah, movie club. If you'd like to be in our movie club, I mean, Discord would be such a great place to talk about this.
So great. All right, Sarah. Well, I think we gotta put a big old fork in this show, but it's been so fun, and we will miss you. But until next week, I'm Heather.
And I'm Sarah.
Have such a good day.
Have a good day and have a better tomorrow.